February 16th, 2022. A dark and quiet street in Jacksonville Beach. A lone tire rests in the middle of the road. It's just past 8 p.m., and Jared Bridegan is driving home after dropping off his 9-year-old twin kids, Abby and Liam, at his ex-wife's house. His 2-year-old daughter, Bexley, is strapped in her car seat in the back. Jared spots the tire and stops. He gets out of the car to remove the tire for the next motorist. A flash illuminates the night, followed by several loud bangs. Jared crumples to the ground as his daughter watches in horror, and the shooter vanishes into the night.
Abnormia.
Welcome to Murder You, an Abnormia original, a true crime series exploring the most shocking murders worldwide. I'm your host, Maddie. This week's episode is Road to Revenge. Before we begin, please like and subscribe to our channel for all the latest Murder You content. Let's get started.
When the police arrive at the scene, they found Jared Bridegan dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Some of the bullets had passed through the car just inches away from the tiny passenger he was trying to protect. There was no robbery or road rage argument, just a calculated ambush that left the police stunned.
What initially appeared to be a random roadside murder would soon reveal something even more sinister: a custody battle, a covert plot, and a trail that led directly back to Jared Bridegan's past. This is the story of a father shot down in front of his child and the cast of characters who wanted him dead. Jared Bridegan and Shanna Gardner met in 2009 through Jared's sister-in-law, and the connection was immediate. Jared flew to Utah to take Shanna on their first date, and within weeks they were engaged. Both came from religious backgrounds. Jared was a lifelong member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Shanna was raised Mormon in a well-known Utah family. They were married in April 2010 at the Salt Lake City LDS Temple, a sacred ceremony for devout members and a sign of shared values at the time. The early years of their relationship were full of promise. They had twins, Abby and Liam, and made multiple cross-country moves to support family needs and Jared's career in digital design. But over time, differences in lifestyle and religious commitment began to surface. Shanna gradually stepped away from the LDS faith, while Jared remained active and deeply rooted in his beliefs. Their contrasting views on parenting and religion became flashpoints during and after the marriage, mainly when it came to raising the children. While they tried to maintain their roles as parents, their disagreements sometimes spilled over into public spaces, including church settings. There were other issues in the marriage as well. As the couple drifted apart, Shanna had an affair with her personal trainer, a betrayal that almost certainly contributed to the breakdown of the marriage. The trust between the couple unraveled for good. What began as a whirlwind romance was falling apart behind closed doors. By 2015, they divorced, but the emotional and legal fallout would last far longer than their marriage. That same year, Jared remarried, which must have come as a shock to his newly divorced ex-wife. The happy couple soon had 2 daughters to raise alongside Jared's twins. Jared Bridegan was the kind of dad who took part in everything, from school events to bedtime stories and weekends brimming with adventures. By all accounts, he cherished fatherhood above all else. He worked as a senior design manager at Microsoft and lived in St. Augustine, Florida, with his second wife, Kirsten, and their 2 young daughters, Bexley and baby London. However, his life was becoming complicated. Jared shared custody of his 9-year-old twins, Abby and Liam, with his ex-wife, Shanna Gardner. By 2022, that relationship had become deeply strained. After the divorce in 2015, tensions between Jared and Shanna never cooled. Custody exchanges were often awkward. Texts went unanswered, and when Jared remarried and built a new life with Kirsten, things became even more contentious. Still, he tried to stay involved with the twins, driving long distances, adjusting schedules, and making the handoffs work, even when it wasn't easy. On the night Jared was murdered, he was doing just that, driving home after dropping off Abby and Liam, trying to stick to the routine. He had taken Bexley with him on the drive, as he often did, and was heading back towards St. Augustine when the ambush occurred.
Someone knew that the Good Samaritan Jared wouldn't simply drive around an obstacle in the middle of the road, and they exploited his kindness and concern for others to set him up and take his life. The callous killer, or killers, showed no regard for the toddler in the back seat, who nearly became a second murder victim.
The community was stunned. Jared Bridegan wasn't involved in anything shady. He was a devoted father, gunned down in the dark in what was supposed to look like a random act of violence. But almost immediately, investigators began to question that theory. Why would the killer have waited in such a specific spot if it was random? And why was nothing taken? Detectives concluded that Jared Bridegan had been deliberately targeted. The planted tire, the assassin-style hit, and the fact that nothing was stolen all indicated careful planning. Whoever pulled the trigger knew exactly where Jared would be and when he would stop. But there were no eyewitnesses. Despite canvassing the neighborhood, investigators found limited physical evidence. Whoever committed this act timed it perfectly, striking during the brief window between when Jared dropped off his older children and when he was expected home. Police began digging into Jared's life. At work, there were no red flags. He had no known enemies, drug connections, or a hidden life. His colleagues all liked and respected him. There were no signs of illegal activity. Friends described Jared Bridegan as kind, devoted, and laser-focused on his children. Investigators interviewed neighbors, examined his phone, and retraced his last steps. It all led to one conclusion. If this wasn't random, it had to be personal. But who could possibly want him dead? Attention soon shifted to Jared's domestic life, specifically his relationship with his ex-wife, Shanna Gardner. Their divorce had not been amicable, to put it mildly. According to those close to the situation, their co-parenting arrangement was tense and marked by years of legal filings, disagreements, and accusations. Communications were filtered through lawyers, and custody exchanges were strained. Additionally, Shanna's new husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana, rarely spoke to Jared. Behind closed doors, the conflict had escalated. Jared's current wife, Kirsten, later revealed that in the months leading up to his murder, Jared confided that things were worsening. He worried about the ongoing custody battle affecting the twins and was also concerned for his own personal safety. He had reason to be. The more investigators examined the situation, the more it appeared that Jared and Shanna's custody dispute had spiraled far beyond typical anger and resentment. This wasn't just about legal paperwork or missed pickups. It involved something deeper and colder. Most messy divorces don't end in murder, but in this case, someone allowed their resentment to build into a murderous rage.
In the months following Jared Bridegan's murder, investigators faced a challenging case with limited leads. However, a breakthrough occurred when surveillance footage captured a blue Ford F-150 pickup truck leaving the vicinity of the crime scene around the time of the shooting. This vehicle became a focal point in the investigation.
Further inquiries revealed that Henry Tenon, a 61-year-old man with a criminal history, owned a truck that matched the description. Tenon was also a former tenant of Mario Fernandez Saldana, the husband of Jared's ex-wife, Shanna Gardner. The connection raised suspicions that Gardner and Saldana could be behind the murder. Investigators delved deeper and discovered that Tenon's cell phone records placed him near the crime scene on the night of the murder. Additionally, financial records indicated that Tenon had received multiple checks totaling $10,000, signed by Fernandez Saldana, in the weeks following the murder. These findings provided compelling evidence of Tenon's involvement. In January 2023, authorities arrested Henry Tenon and charged him with second-degree murder. Facing the possibility of a life sentence, Tenon agreed to a plea deal, admitting to being the triggerman in the ambush of Jared Bridegan. He also agreed to provide information about the cold-blooded conspiracy. Henry Tenon revealed that Mario Fernandez Saldana hired him to carry out the killing in a murder-for-hire plot orchestrated by Jared's ex-wife and her new beau. With Henry Tenon now cooperating, investigators moved swiftly to verify the details he provided. They confirmed that Mario Fernandez Saldana, Shanna Gardner's second husband, was deeply involved in the conspiracy. According to Tenon, Fernandez not only orchestrated the murder, but also made initial contact, discussed logistics, and provided the financial compensation. Detectives traced phone records and text messages between Tenon and Fernandez. They also discovered that Tenon had conducted surveillance on Jared in the weeks leading up to the murder. GPS data and cell tower pings indicated he was near Jared's home and in areas Jared frequently traveled. Tenon's movements aligned with the planning stages outlined in his confession. Financial records confirmed that Tenon received payments associated with Fernandez, including multiple checks from a business controlled by Fernandez.
In March 2023, Mario Fernandez Saldana was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation to commit a capital felony, and child abuse, because little Bexley was present in the car during her father's murder. Saldana was held without bond.
But the investigation didn't stop there. Tenon's statements also implicated Shanna Gardner directly. According to court records, Gardner wanted to get rid of Jared. Tenon claimed that the custody battle was the motive for premeditated murder. The communication timeline between her, Fernandez, and Tenon supported the theory that she was involved in the plot from the start. After Jared's murder, Shanna Gardner relocated to Washington State with the twins, a move prosecutors later deemed suspicious due to its timing and her lack of cooperation with investigators. It became another data point in what they described as a long-standing pattern of hostility and control. In August 2023, Gardner was arrested in West Richland, Washington, and extradited to Florida. Back in the Sunshine State, Shanna Gardner was formally charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation to commit murder. Prosecutors announced that they would seek the death penalty for both Gardner and Fernandez.
You gotta hand it to Florida. They don't mess around.
The case has taken over a year to piece together, but investigators now believe they will expose every layer of the conspiracy during the upcoming trials. Prosecutors have compiled a timeline that spans several years. According to them, this was a well-planned conspiracy and a premeditated murder plot to remove Jared from their lives. According to Jared's family, the situation was so contentious that even basic parenting coordination was sometimes impossible. The state alleges that this growing animosity became the motive. In early court filings, they described how Fernandez and Gardner conspired and agreed to execute Jared, citing their desire to eliminate his involvement with the twins. With Fernandez and Gardner awaiting trial, prosecutors announced their intention to try the cases separately, relying on the same witnesses and evidence. Both defendants have pleaded not guilty. Henry Tenon had already pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and agreed to testify in the upcoming trials. His cooperation became the foundation for the prosecution's cases as he recounted how he was recruited, the plans for the ambush, and how he was paid after the killing. Tenon also provided details about the firearm used and the placement of the tire, which corroborated the findings from the crime scene. Surveillance footage, cell tower data, and financial transactions supported his account. While the defense teams have remained tight-lipped, early court filings suggest they may argue that Tenon's testimony is unreliable and that there is no direct evidence linking Gardner or Fernandez to the planning or financing of the murder. Prosecutors are expected to argue that the cumulative weight of circumstantial evidence, including Tenon's statements, communication records, and financial transfers, establishes clear intent and proof of a conspiracy. Pretrial motions and hearings were stretched over several months, with trial dates anticipated for late 2025. prosecutors indicated they will pursue the death penalty for both Fernandez and Gardner, a decision that guarantees the legal process will be lengthy. Though a conviction has yet to be handed down for Gardner or Fernandez, the evidence, along with Tennan's account, remains compelling. A case that once felt like a mystery that would never yield answers now looks like a slam dunk case. But it remains to be seen if a jury agrees. The arrests of the 3 suspects brought some measure of relief, but for Jared's family, justice remains unfinished. Jared's widow, Kirsten Bridegan, has focused her efforts on advocacy. She created the Bridegan Foundation and the Bexley Box Initiative to support children affected by violent crimes and has become a public figure in the fight for victims' rights. She continues to raise their 2 daughters, Bexley and London. Florida's Attorney General honored her efforts with the Back the Blue Award. Kirsten Bridegan has spoken publicly about the trauma her daughter Bexley experienced after witnessing her father's murder. In a series of interviews, Kirsten described how Bexley asked about her father daily and struggled with night terrors. As legal motions continue, the state's pursuit of the death penalty has added complexity. Defense teams have requested delays, challenged testimony admissibility, and raised concerns over venue and jury bias. Despite the delays, prosecutors remained confident in the case against Gardner and Fernandez. A trial date was finally set. Jury selection for both Gardner and Fernandez is scheduled to begin in October 2025, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty for both. But even with that date on the calendar, delays remain a possibility. With the trial still ahead, the entire story is still waiting to be tested in court. For Jared's family, justice means more than a guilty verdict. It means answers, accountability, and maybe finally, peace.
Jared Bridegan was ambushed and killed on a quiet street in front of his 2-year-old daughter, just blocks from his ex-wife's house. It wasn't a robbery or random street violence. It was a calculated setup, allegedly stemming from a bitter custody battle over Jared's 9-year-old twins. The callous crime was planned to the last detail, yet the conspiracy and cover-up were sloppy and led right back to the only people who had a grudge against the devoted father of 4.
Now, Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez are accused of orchestrating the killing. The trial is only a few months away, but the verdict remains uncertain. That's it for this episode. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow us on social media for regular updates about this case and all the most shocking true crime cases.